Welcome to the Joseph Mews webinar, where we will be discussing Birmingham versus Derby. My name is Brian Gradner. I am working with the Pam Golding International team in South Africa. And today we'll be having a wonderful webinar, which will be hosted by Joseph Mews. Thanks very much for having us on today, and welcome to everybody. I will introduce you to Mark Bester, who is the Regional Sales Director for Joseph Mews in Africa. And once again, thanks for having us. Mark, over to you.
Thank you, Brian. Really appreciate it. And it's always great teaming up with Pam Golding with our project. So thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, just a big welcome to all of you that are joining this morning. It's great to have you come and learn more about the market, and essentially hopefully we can unpack some information that you might not have been aware of. As Brian mentioned, I am Mark Bester. I'm the Regional Sales Director for Joseph Mews in Africa. It's a great pleasure to be able to assist clients within Africa in purchasing property in the UK, obviously assisting them all along the way in the process to make sure that the transaction is as smooth as possible, and that we can obviously help manage it further for you. We are very lucky today to have Raj Bedi from Martin & Co. He's the director and lettings expert for Martin & Co. in the West Midlands area. We work very closely with Raj for our developments within that region, and obviously helping find tenants and manage the properties and the like. And essentially we've got Travis Comery joining us actually from the Joseph Mews team, but Travis has spent the majority of his professional career as a lettings managing agent in Derby itself. So Raj being based in Birmingham, Travis coming out of the Derby market, we're going to put them head to head today and obviously see the difference between the two regions. I will take you through quickly in terms of our company history. You might be wondering who Joseph Mews are, and the likes of the fact that Pam Golding are hosting the webinar and have invited you. We've had a partnership with Pam Golding for a number of years now, maybe 8 or 9 years, where we've obviously helped provide Pam Golding International with their UK offerings. So about us as a company, just briefly, we have over 20 years experience since we were founded by our chairman, Andy Foote, featured on screen here. Andy was a young entrepreneur and an avid property investor from an early on, and essentially through his own negative experiences, I suppose, in purchasing investment properties, he wanted to streamline the process and just make it so much better for the investor. Understanding that there are a lot of moving parts in a property purchase: solicitors, mortgage brokers, managing agents, the developer itself, what development's being built, is it quality, is it in the right places. So Andy set out to achieve a company that's going to provide this value to the investor and hold their hand throughout. And it has been truly successful. After about 10 years, Andy was approached by an old friend of his to join him as a developer and start building in the West Midlands. The company was founded and named Seven Capital. We grew Seven Capital to become the third largest residential developer in the UK, and they have been incredibly successful. They've obviously diverted their focus to commercial and other ventures, essentially due to the success. So it gave us the opportunity to again work independently and not be focused just on one developer's projects, but we are able to work with multiple developers across the UK now, focusing on those high growth areas. So essentially the name, we rebranded about 3 years ago now, 3.5 years ago, from Seven Capital. We always get asked, where does the name come from? It's not your quintessential property investment name, but in short, there's quite a lot of history behind it. Andy's son Joseph unfortunately passed away to a brain tumor at the age of 9 after being diagnosed at the age of 3. And shortly after that, Andy and his wife founded the Brain Tumor Charity, which has become the largest foundation of its kind in the world. So as much as Andy's a very successful entrepreneur, this foundation is definitely the jewel in his crown. He loves it. It's his most proud project he's ever worked on. And we've seen survival rates of brain tumor patients actually increase from 15% to over 70% since its inception. So it's been hugely successful. But alongside that, Andy continued to build his own property portfolio and in tribute to Joseph, started naming his properties after Joseph. So he's standing in front of Joseph Mews there, which is actually our head office based in Birmingham on St. Paul's Square in the Jewelry Quarter. And when it came to rebranding the company, it just made all the sense in the world to tribute to Joseph and what Andy and his wife had done with the brain tumor charity. So that's a little bit about us, where we stem from. Essentially, our track record is what we hang our hat on, especially for international investors. I'd say about 50% of the properties we sell are to UK local residents, but essentially the other 50% are international investors purchasing into the UK. But as an international investor being so far away, you definitely want to know who you're doing this with and that it is all under control. So we've delivered over 4,000 completed properties in our time, rented out, appreciating in value, all in strategically growing areas. That amounts to about 43 completed developments. We've got a 28% repeat purchase rate, which is huge contribution to our business plan. We want to help clients grow property portfolios through the growth of existing property in their portfolios. So it's in our best interest to make sure we deliver properties that are going to perform higher than average and derive that value as quickly as possible. We have also delivered over 630 million pounds worth of GDV to our clients. So our track record is something we're very proud of, and it does give our clients peace of mind that they are working with someone that has done this a couple times. So yeah, if you haven't heard of us before, that should give you a bit of a peace of mind. We come about partnerships very strategically. The business is definitely built on that. The developers we choose to partner with, and I'll explain a little bit further about how those partnerships work. But essentially, they're all award-winning developers, developers that essentially are delivering value to the market in strategically located scenario or locations that are targeting a higher LSM tenant. So these developers need to be well funded, they need to have a track record, they need to be delivering quality, and that is just some of the due diligence points that we would enter into with before even entering into a partnership. We work with some of the biggest and the most acclaimed developers in the UK, so we always do know quality is obviously delivered with our projects. So, as Joseph Mews, it is good differentiation or differential to understand what we do for you. On the development side, with the developers, we help advise on investment cases. What locations are strategically the strongest for investment, where the high growth is, where the regeneration is taking place, what plans are in place for growth and future improvement and infrastructure, what to build, and essentially the costs and prices of the properties that are brought to market. So once we've done that with the developer, we obviously derive the marketing and we take that to our sales network, which is a global network, working with partners such as Pam Golding. Essentially, on the client side, from understanding your objectives, where you want to be investing, what you want to be investing in, and why, we can derive a property that suits those needs and take you through each step along the way. That would include a mortgage broker if you are considering to purchase with a mortgage. It will include a panel of solicitors that will represent you legally in the UK. It will also amount to us holding your hand through that process to exchange and contracts, and then ultimately complete on your purchase and take ownership. Prior to that, we would introduce you to someone like Raj and Martin & Co., who we've got a partnership with, and will give our clients preferential rates in terms of the management fees, as well as allow us to work alongside them in terms of the performance and whatnot of the apartment. So Raj and his team will find the tenants, will market the apartment, find the tenants, do their due diligence on the tenants and vet them and make sure that the applicants put in front of you are of the best of the applicants so that you can ultimately choose who rents your apartment from you. From there on out, us as a team will do annual portfolio overviews of how your property is tracking, what the rentals are, what your mortgage facility is looking like, what's the market doing. and look at opportunities for yourself in terms of streamlining it or expanding. Essentially, also, all of our buildings come with a 10-year build warranty, and that does give our investors peace of mind in terms of the maintenance while managing a property. If anyone's owned a rental property before, they'll understand that there are requirements entailed in managing a property. We offset those needs by utilizing partners like Martin and Co. to help manage these properties. So during this webinar, should you have any questions, at the bottom there is a Q&A that you can easily type your question in there, and we can either answer it throughout or at the end of the webinar to keep you enlightened with anything that you might be unsure of. So quickly, why the UK? Well, historically, it's the highest performing property market in the world. It is still the number one destination for property investment in the world, and this is largely due to the fact of the property growth and historic growth in their region. And why this has happened is because they've got a housing crisis, they've got a lack of supply, and a huge demand with an ever-growing population. It's also underpinned by a very strong economy, a strong currency, and great jobs on offer. So people want to live there. And essentially, if you compare it to somewhere like the UAE or Dubai, where you've got quite a hot pot right now, but there's no historic data of where that's going. It's quite a transient community. People, come and go from the region, whereas the UK is home for many. If anything should happen, houses are always going to be required. So essentially, we do offer the UK market as a safe haven. It is a strong market to obviously de-risk any portfolio. It's a diversification tool for any clients out of Africa that need to diversify, have a strong asset and a strong currency, and benefit from that. So essentially, this graph illustrates that the properties double in value between 10 and 15 years. And obviously, you can be quicker if you are strategic about the location. So today we are putting Birmingham and Derby up against each other. The reason for that is they are both very high performing markets with different attributes. So there are different reasons to consider each market as an investment. However, we'll unpack those with Travis and Raj now. But you might be wondering why London is not on this webinar. Why are we not comparing London? Quite simply put, is that London has done incredibly well in the last 20, 30 years. We've seen property prices soar through the roof, and essentially that has made it a hard market to invest into. Average property prices are already over £700,000. Your average rental yields anywhere between 2.5% and maybe 4%. Whereas because of this cost of living crisis in the south, you've seen a lot of people moving further north to these regional cities such as Birmingham, Derby, Leeds, Manchester, and institutions have also recognized the fact that they can operate their companies a lot more efficiently in these areas. There's regentrification taking place, regeneration, infrastructure improvement, and transport links that are all being improved. And so a lot of institutions and corporations have moved there, offering jobs, and we always know where there are jobs, there's a housing demand. So if we unpack what has the strongest investment case, not to knock London and say that it's a bad investment. I believe London will always be a very stable investment, but you might not get the returns. Your money might not work as hard, and the barrier to entry is a little bit harder for most. So essentially, if you look further north, you will obviously be able to put your money harder to work, get a better rental yield and capital appreciation as these infrastructure investments take place and more institutions move into these areas. So without further ado, this is just a very quick SWOT analysis, taking that account, average house prices in these areas and rental yields. And you can see how London is very much an outlier in what you can be achieving in the UK in terms of Derby and Birmingham. So for those of you unaware of the geography of these two cities, Derby is the most central city in England, and half an hour southwest of that, you will have Birmingham. Bringing on to the webinar now, I'd like to welcome Raj Bedi and Travis Comery. Thanks for joining us today, guys. If you wouldn't mind just giving a brief introduction about yourselves and your expertise in each market. If Raj, you can start. Thank you.
Mark. Hi, everybody. So I'm Raj. I am the director of Martin & Co. We're a letting agency in Birmingham. We've been operating for 13 years, and I've got two offices, one in Birmingham city centre and the other in an area called Harborne, which is 2 miles south of the city centre. So yeah, we specialise in new build apartments and looking after overseas clients as well for managing their rental properties. So yeah, well placed to kind of talk about the Birmingham rental market today.
Thanks, Raj.
Great, thanks, Raj. So my name's Travis. I'm a senior property investment manager for Joseph Mews Property Group at the moment. My background comes in residential lettings, to which I worked for about 8.5 years in the Derby market. I worked for a market-leading residential lettings business, so my experience and expertise comes with the growth of the city from what I've seen. So yeah, it'd be great to talk to you about the project there.
Brilliant. Thanks, Travis. We're going to kick it off with round one. There are 5 rounds. We'll go through them bit by bit, and please don't forget to ask us any questions down below in the Q&A box. So round one, we're going to compare investment potential between Birmingham and Derby. If Raj, you wouldn't mind starting off with Birmingham, and then we'll move over to Travis.
So Birmingham, the average property price is 250,000, and there's forecasted growth for not just property values but also rental growth as well. So property values are estimated to grow by just over 26% over the next 4 or 5 years. And the same with the rental price growth as well. That's estimated to be at just over 22%. Now, we have had phenomenal growth in the rental market and rental prices over the last few years, particularly since lockdown restrictions eased. Prior to that, when I worked in the market from 2012 to about 2020, there was rental growth, but it was slow growth. It was nowhere near as fast-paced growth as what we're experiencing now. And kind of from about 2020 to about 2024, the rental prices just hit the roof. They slowed down a bit, and now we're going through a phase of rapid growth again, which is great for landlords, not so good for tenants. But at the same time, there has been increases in wages as well. So renters aren't any worse off because their salaries have increased. Average rental yield is around 6 to 7%. It can be higher, can be lower, but if you can get a rental yield in that sort of range, that is considered really, really good. And in terms of market dynamics, there's a lot of competition from buyers and also as well as tenants. There's just not enough supply in the market, so we need developers to carry on building to satisfy the demand that we've got from buyers and the tenants. In terms of demographic of the type of people that buy and rent in the city centre, it's professionals, graduates. We've got a very strong graduate retention rate in Birmingham, and there's a lot of people relocating from other parts of the UK, in particular London, and we've got a lot of people moving from overseas as well, particularly students, international students. And there's high confidence in the market due to big infrastructure projects that we've got and big regeneration projects that we've got in place. So a big one that's a game changer is HS2. And which, if you don't know what HS2 is, that is going to be a train station that is going to connect Birmingham to London in just 49 minutes. And then we've got the Big City Plan, which is a multi-billion-pound regeneration scheme that is, I believe it's about 40 years in how long that regeneration scheme is going to last for. So yeah, big confidence in the market from investors and also buyers and own occupiers. I'll pass you on to Travis now so you can talk about Derby.
Yeah, thanks, Raj. And look, I think with Derby, the one thing I want to mention while summarising these points is Derby is what I consider a hidden gold mine. It's a much smaller city. It's got a lower entry price, but what it has is significant potential. And I think Derby was what I would class as being at the start of a journey of growth. So as an investor, what you're looking for, of course, is potential in the area, which is what these figures contribute to. And Derby is at the very early days of this investment produce and growth that we're expecting over the next few years. So, I mean, as you can see there with the statistics, the forecast in terms of the price growth over the next 4 years is 24.6%, which for such a concentrated smaller city is extremely high, which is really exciting to see. On that, Derby's got the highest economic value in terms of it's the fastest growing economic city in the UK, which again, shows for a small city where it's going in the UK, which is really good to see. Rental growth. So as I mentioned, I worked in the rental sector of Derby, and it grown significantly in my time there. We are still again predicting more growth, almost 20% growth again, which is really, really good. It's great to see. Rental yield, we kind of say as investment experts in the area, anything above a 6% yield is really attractive in the UK. So the fact that it falls above that category, again, a really, really good place to be. In terms of where we found our tenants and what the demographic was, I think it's really interesting to see that 48% are under 35. That's really good information because it's a growing city with young professionals, which also makes it a very fast-paced market as well. So the demographic is very strong in Derby. In all honesty, that's one of the strongest attractions to the city is the professionals and the standard of people that are actually renting the units there. And then, yeah, as you can see at the bottom there, sixth most productive city in the UK, which again is really credible down to the fact that Derby is only a small city, but the fact that it's recognised as the sixth most productive in the UK, I think is really impressive.
Brilliant. Thanks, Travis. On a personal note, you moved to Derby to start your professional career. Was the average price or the average salary part of that decision?
Yeah. Look, it's from a personal point of view, it's very well paid in terms of the average salary and per person, and the way I see it is I've grown up there now for it was all my life that I've been in Derby, and I think it's got the second highest average salary per person in the UK, outside of London. And the reason I've stayed in Derby city centre is because of that. It's a very well paying area. What it means for you guys as investors is it means that you're going to have a higher standard of tenants where the rent is going to be affordable, and that's extremely important to make sure that you've got a tenant paying the rent and looking after their apartment.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, that is one thing about Joseph Mews is we very much focus on the type of tenant that will be renting our clients' apartments. We obviously want professionals living there that de-risks that risk of having someone not being able to pay the rent or look after the apartment. You want your tenant to be house proud as well at the same time, and that's essentially what this market does offer. So off of the back of that, let's go into round two, which is employment, in fact. So let's pair Birmingham and Derby up against each other here. Obviously, we'll start off with you, Raj, if you don't mind.
So Birmingham is known as the second city, so it's not surprising that the economy is so big. So we've got a 27 billion pound economy, and we've got there's a lot of big businesses that operate in Birmingham. So HSBC, they actually relocated their head office from Canary Wharf in London to Birmingham. That was I believe it's around 2020 when they did that, and that was a significant move. And other companies are following suit as well. Part of the reason why companies are moving to Birmingham and relocating their head offices from the likes of London is because obviously you've got big infrastructure projects like HS2. People want to live in Birmingham because it's more affordable, and also geographically Birmingham is in the middle of the country, so it's just easy to get to from everywhere. So yeah, you'll recognise obviously these employers: PwC, Goldman Sachs, Deloitte. I could reel off a whole load of names, and it's a big contributing factor to the economy and the job market in Birmingham. There's a big focus on the finance sector in the area, and like as I said before, there's many firms relocating from London to Birmingham to benefit from I suppose they've got lots of benefits in terms of their office space is cheaper here. They will save on salaries, and they will it will encourage more employment because people will have a better standard of living and more disposable income by living in Birmingham. The graduate retention rate is the highest in the UK for Birmingham, so 49%. And that's something that I see just day to day in terms of people that work within my company. A lot of them are not actually from Birmingham, but they've graduated and then they've got a job with us. So it's just something that I can see where that statistic comes from, firsthand. There's a lot of job creation due to the amount of companies that are relocating here. Even HS2 that we've mentioned, obviously, most people when they think about HS2, they think about the infrastructure that it's going to bring, and in terms of the train time, bringing that down to 49 minutes to London. But there's also HS2 is a massive employer, and they're employing project managers, engineers, finance people, so it's bringing a lot of job creation. And the average graduate salary is 27,500 in Birmingham as we speak, but that is continuing to rise year on year because the government is they've got policy on the minimum wage, and every year that is rising. So we expect that to increase over the forthcoming years. Pass you over to Travis now to speak about Derby.
Thanks.
Yep, thanks, Raj. And look, this is one that I get really excited about with Derby because I think it's a very unique and really interesting factor in the city. So the first point I'm going to mention on the slide that you can see here is that the average salary in Derby is, as I mentioned, the second highest in all of the UK outside of London, which is as you can see, £40,769. Now, the reason I get very excited about naming that statistic is because technically that means that the rents in Derby should be the second highest behind London, right? Because if people can afford the prices, the affordability, it means it should be able to mean that the rents can rise. So when I mention about the rents rising significantly over the next 5 years, that's because we know in Derby with total confidence that the people that are living in the city can afford it. Now, I think that's really important because, again, the art of investing into the UK property market is finding a good quality professional tenant that pays the rent on time and looks after your property. The key with Derby and the exciting thing is that people can afford that rent. So when you increase your rents every single year, people can pay for it comfortably. So just keep that kind of note in mind. But the reasons why Derby is so high paying as a city is because it's got a wealth of multinational businesses. So Rolls-Royce, Bombardier, Toyota. It's the engineering hub of the UK, which is extremely good for employers. But what it also means, and what we saw, is that people are moving and relocating from other areas in the UK to work for Rolls-Royce, to work for Bombardier. They're finishing university and actually moving into Derby as a city. So as you can see there, 46% of graduates are choosing to move to Derby for work. Now that's huge. Traditionally in the UK, everybody would do the degrees and they would move to London. That's changing now. People are actually choosing to come and live and work in Derby, which is incredibly good for the city. It means that we're having more professionals, which is driving the average salary up, which we've seen, which also then means that the rents are rising and the properties are appreciating in value.
Brilliant. I mean, it definitely does stem well for the market when your tenant base that you finding tenants from have a bit more disposable income. So that definitely pushes rentals up on average. Guys, thank you for that. We're going to jump into round 3 now, which is regeneration. So we're going to peg both these cities up against each other. It's obviously clear Birmingham is a much bigger beast in terms of the size of the city, what's going on there, whereas Derby is a smaller city, but with so much happening within that region. So regeneration is key. And let's jump into this round. Raj, if you wouldn't mind taking us away with this.
So I touched on the big city plan earlier, and that is a massive regeneration scheme. I believe one of, if not the Europe's biggest regeneration scheme. I believe £10 billion project from started in 2010. and will go on till 2040. And what that includes is it includes the likes of, you know, your HS2 as well as the metro. Obviously, we're going to have HS2 station, but everyone needs to be able to get to HS2 station. So there's a metro line that's already been built, but there's extensions onto that, and that's just going to grow and grow, that metro line. Also, the big business district, there's a lot of regeneration into that, commercial space and residential space. The job creation from HS2 is 10,000 people, plus more expected as well. And HS2 has become, you know, one of the biggest significant employers in the area. Yeah, as I mentioned before, it's actually the largest regeneration project in Europe. And in terms of the residential element, there's a focus on high-rise, tall apartment buildings and more community-focused buildings. So buildings that have, you know, the facilities such as, you know, sky gardens, concierge, work-from-home spaces, gyms, that sort of thing. And that is meeting the tenant demand, because that's what tenants want these days. They want, you know, higher spec, more facilities, and, you know, more luxury lifestyle living, and tenants will pay a premium rent for that as well. There's global appeal for Birmingham. We're seeing, you know, it's becoming kind of a destination city, a lot of tourism here as well. We had the Commonwealth Games here a few years back, and that kind of put Birmingham on the map on a global scale. I'll pass you over to Travis now.
Thanks, Raj. And yeah, look, I mean, regeneration is a huge part of your investment. You need to be able to foresee the vision in 5 years' time, and beyond that, the city is developing. That's where your capital appreciation will come in. And with Derby, you know, for such a small city, you know, when you contrast the populations, Birmingham has approximately 1.1 million. Derby has approximately 300,000 people in terms of a population. So when you consider the fact that there is such a shorter population in Derby, but there's still a £3.5 billion master plan development to the area, that shows the level of regeneration and investment that's going into Derby as a city. So again, going back to when I mentioned Derby's at the start of that journey, that's why I foresee the growth to be so quick and so exciting over the next short distance future, because 3.5 billion pounds is going into the city to rejuvenate it, to bring value and to add some really cool things to the city. So yeah, as you can see, Castle Ward Village, an area I know very well in Derby, there's going to be 800 new homes that's going to be coming to Derby city centre. That's going to be incredible for the marketplace. It's going to drive the prices forwards just on that development alone, which is really good for anybody that's invested in Derby, because when something like this happens, you see a spike in the prices. So we're going to see that rise. It also means there's going to be another 800 plus professionals moving to Derby, which again is really good for us as an area. One thing I wanted to mention with Derby as well is in terms of where it is and what's happening with the regeneration, that there's so many upgrades happening all the time. So you've got the bus station that's been regenerated over the last 2 years. So now it's a really good bus network. So nobody necessarily needs to drive when you're living in the city centre, which we will come on to a little bit later. But I think the key, and to summarise everything with the regeneration projects in Derby, for a small area, everything is improving. So they're putting the money into the shopping centre, they're putting money into the roads, into new houses. So everything is growing in the right direction, which makes it a really good and sustainable investment over the next few years.
Excellent. Thanks, Travis. Yeah, I was recently in Derby, probably about 6-7 weeks ago, and also Birmingham, but essentially to see what has been happening there over time. Every time I visit, there's a level of improvement taking place, and it is just such a wonderful city to visit and live, as well as Birmingham, as these improvements take place. Let's jump into round 4 and take us through education. What's on offer, and why is this a pertinent focal point for when it comes to investment? Let me just jump. There we go. Thank you, Raj.
But Birmingham has a massive student population of over 88,000 people, 88,000 students, because there's 5 universities, and they're not just small universities, they're big universities as well. There's 3 really big ones, and then there's 2 kind of medium-sized ones. that specialise in. One of them is Newman University, and that more specialises in teaching. And you've got the College of Law, which obviously specialises in law. But then you've got the big three University of Birmingham, Aston, and Birmingham City University. And you know, what's great about Birmingham as a location is it's geographically in the middle, so you get students from, you know, all around the country because it's easy for them to get to. They can go home, you know, to their family home, you know, easily, and you know, there's a big influx of international students as well because it's you know, it's a well-known city. It's more affordable than London. So you know, it's a place that people want to move to and want to study here as well. So yeah, with the graduation and retention rate as well, that is obviously increasing the overall population of the city. As you know, students, they stay on. You know, in many other cities, students come, finish their studies, and they go. But because Birmingham is so great with the retention rate, it's increasing population. That means that we need more apartments to satisfy the tenant demand. Every year there's 12,000 new renters from the graduates, which is why, you know, we need the developers to carry on building, because currently it is causing massive shortages. Rental prices have been going through the roof, and it's unsustainable. You know, it's not fair on renters to have, you know, rental prices going through the roof and at the rate they are. You know, we need the apartments to satisfy the demand. Yeah, I'll pass you over to Travis now.
Great, thanks, Raj. And look, education is a huge a factor within the city, and with Derby, with the location, as Mark mentioned, it's the most central located city in the UK. I think something that's really good with Derby is the fact that within an hour you've got 17 universities, which is great. And I just want to kind of mention from Joseph Mews, we don't necessarily target students with our investments. What we do is we target professionals, and I think what's really important here is that the graduates, and due to the fact that you've got 17 universities within one area, because when they are graduating, they are moving into Derby as a location, and that's the exact type of tenant that you guys will want as an investor, a professional person that's got a good salary, and I think that's the key here with Derby's area and location. The fact that you've got access to all of these different universities, of some of them are some of the best in the country as well. You know, only within an hour away. So that means no matter where you're studying, you can come into the city and you can have a place to live. In terms of location, you know, the academic hubs, you're very close to, you're obviously in the East Midlands as Derby, so you're very close to Nottingham, to Leicester and Sheffield. You know, you can get to all of these locations within an hour, which is really good. Sheffield has 2 universities, Nottingham has 2 universities, and Leicester has a university there as well. So it gives that ability to be able to commute, which I think is really important. So yeah, I think kind of education is a huge factor in regards to your investment goals. But the way I would look at it from an angle where Derby is extremely impressive is the fact that graduates will retain and they will stay after they've qualified for their degree.
Yeah, definitely. One interesting point on that too, which you can't leave out, is the fact that all these universities have professional staff working for them, and that is a large number of tenants in the area. And I do have clients that own property in Derby that you know, lecturers or admin staff at universities that travel through to Derby. I mean, through to Birmingham every day, because essentially it's only a half an hour commute. So there are these interlinking scenarios where someone will live in one city and work in another. But on the education side, they are providing a large tenant profile for the market themselves. So jumping into round 5 and the last round 5, as I mentioned now, like, Derby is only half an hour away from Birmingham. So what sets these two cities apart in terms of connectivity? Are they much different to each other? So let's go in, and Raj, if you wouldn't mind starting again and taking us through your thoughts.
So the main station or train station for Birmingham, it's called Birmingham New Street. It's the UK's third busiest station in the UK. There are several, you know, there's loads of train stations in Birmingham, but Birmingham New Street is the hub. And then within that, you've got, you know, train stations literally 5 minutes walk from each other, but they all connect and feed into New Street. So the current travel time from New Street to Euston in London is currently 1 hour and 18 minutes, which is not a long time at all. So you still do get commuters, commuting from Birmingham into London, but HS2 is going to be a game changer in the fact that it's going to be just 49 minutes. And there's areas of London, if you were in South London, it'll take you 49 minutes to get into central London. So that's kind of just telling you how close Birmingham is going to be to London. Yes, on a map geographically it's not, but transport and rail networks are going to make it possible to kind of feel as if you're living in London with actually benefiting from the Birmingham house prices. Birmingham Airport, International Airport, it is going through a major renovation, and that will continue over the coming years as well. And it's growing in terms of the number of international destinations. It has 12 million passengers going through there per year. So it's a big, significant airport, and it's just 20 minutes away from the city centre. And HS2, it's actually going to stop as well at the airport. So on the journey from Birmingham to London, it's gonna one of the stations it's going to stop at is the airport, which is going to be quite significant as well. There's a lot of local connectivity. Buses. You've got the metro network, which is expanded already, but is continuing to expand. And Birmingham, it's very local in terms of train access to big key cities such as Manchester, Bristol, Leeds, and even places like Derby and Nottingham and the East Midlands. In Birmingham, we have something called Spaghetti Junction, which is right in the middle of Birmingham, and basically it's where all the motorways connect. And from Birmingham, transport link wise, you can get kind of everywhere. So, you can easily get on the M1 down to London, or the M6 up north to Manchester. So yeah, it's quite a well-known fact that in Birmingham, you've got this Spaghetti Junction, which is where all the motorways kind of meet each other. So it's very easy to get to everywhere. And yeah, I've touched on the infrastructure investment, but that airport refurbishment and renovation I mentioned, it's actually a £100 million upgrade, which is adding to more destinations and flights coming in to Birmingham as well. So yeah, I'll pass you over to Travis now, so he can speak about Derby.
Thanks, Raj.
Yeah, thanks, Raj. And look, I think with that when we're comparing the two cities here, I think what's really golden for Derby is the fact that all of these huge and really impressive benefits of Birmingham, so the airport and the HS2, when you're in Derby, you are still only 30 minutes away from this. So, for example, putting myself in this situation, when I fly to Dubai or various locations in the world, it takes me 35 minutes to get from Derby, where I live, to Birmingham Airport to still have access to using this big multinational airport, which is great. But I think Derby specific, what's so convenient with Derby is everything is so close. So you never feel like you're too far away from anywhere. You could get up to Manchester in 1 hour and 15 minutes. You could get to Birmingham in 30 minutes. You could get to London, as you can see, in under 1 hour and a half. So wherever you want to go in the UK, you've got a free access. What I found from a tenant point of view is people are happy locating in Derby due to its central location, because these remote, high-profile clients that have access to different cities in the UK, they often need to vary where they're working. So if they're located right in the middle of the country, their accessibility to getting to Manchester, to Bristol, to Wales, to all different parts of the UK is much easier. And that's what I've found is extremely impressive about Derby. In terms of an airport, we do actually have one ourselves. We have the East Midlands Airport, which is just 21 minutes away. That can fly over to all of Europe and beyond, which is also really impressive. But what I want to kind of touch on is the roads as well. You can get straight on the M1. So you've got a few main roads around Derby, the A52, the A38, and the M1. You are 5 minutes away from every single one of these roads. So those roads can connect you to every part of the UK, which is extremely easy and it's extremely accessible. Due to the fact that Derby is in too busy. As I mentioned, it's not the biggest city in the world. That means that the accessibility getting from the city centre onto these roads, there's barely any traffic, so there's no problem getting onto these access links, which is really good. In terms of the train access points, you've got the Derby railway station, which is extremely well connected. It means that you can travel to most major cities in the UK direct, which is really, really good. It certainly helped me when I was wanting to go to various cities through work. And as you can see, some examples there: Leicester 23 minutes, Nottingham 29 minutes, Sheffield 23 minutes, Birmingham again, as mentioned earlier, 30 minutes there. So Derby's prime location in the UK can never change, and I think that's something really, really important. Derby will always be the most central city in the UK, and when we see all this infrastructure and all these changes that are happening to increase the outlook and the presence of Derby, I think that's going to really grow in terms of where it is.
Brilliant. Thanks, Travis, and thanks, Raj. That takes us to the end of round 5 and all the rounds. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, there is a questionnaire that's going to pop up here. After the information you've heard, it'll be interesting to hear what you favor. What do you think is going to be the strongest investment case, or which city would you lean on to invest in? I'll take you through 2 options after this, just to kind of show you the options we as a company have to offer. But I think what you're gathering here is Birmingham is a little bit more established. It's a bigger city. There's lots going on there. There's obviously a very large professional pool taking place there. And we've seen historical data obviously take place in the growth there. Derby and average property prices higher than Derby. But Derby, you've got a lower barrier to entry. You've got good rental yields there, and a buzzing regeneration culture taking place with infrastructure improvement and the like. So it has a very strong investment case attached to it. So essentially, it might come down to budget, but it also might come down to preference in terms of big city or a strong growth city in a smaller capacity. So I'm not sure if you can just pop your answers in there. This should then move on to the answers from everyone. Let's just see if this happens now. Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay, the answers should pop up now. Okay, so sorry, Raj. It looks like 100% Derby in today's webinar. That's quite a big shift. The other day we had it at almost 50-50. So yes, that's Travis, well done for your knowledge and information there. But let's move on to the different essentially offerings that we had in each city, just as a reference point for yourselves. Maybe you are ready to invest, maybe you're not, but this is always a great way to see what is available. So in Birmingham, I'm going to use our premium offering on St. Paul's Square in the Jewellery Quarter. The Jewellery Quarter in Birmingham is probably the most sought after residential area in Birmingham. Raj can attest to that. This is a premium address. It's a premium offering, and it's something that will definitely stand the test of time. St. Paul's Square being one of the last green spaces in Birmingham city centre. We have launched this project. We had one bed starting from £250,000. I think currently the lowest price one bed is about £269,000 at the moment. How it works: a 20% deposit is required to be paid within a month of reservation. And then on completion in Q1 2026, the remainder 80% is due to be paid. That can be paid in cash, or if you're wanting to utilize a mortgage, you can utilize your mortgage then and pay the difference in then. So it's essentially helps your cash flow using an off-plan development. But essentially, number 30 St. Paul's, it is a grade 2 listed building. If you look here, we've got the grade 2 listed side on the left, and then we've got a recently converted or regenerated version of the building on the right. There is a courtyard behind this building in the middle, which is currently an art gallery, but will become the developer's offices on completion. But what we've got here is just prime location. It is known, the address is known as the Mayfair of Birmingham. because of the desire to live there, its historic value, and just its closeness to amenities. You've got Colmore Row, literally a couple minutes walk down the road. You've got all these amenities around you. Just to establish here, if that's St. Paul's Square there, Colmore Row is just over here. So essentially, that's where all the financial jobs are and those big offices. So it's really strategically located. Let's see, so just jumping through the offering here, the developer Elevate Property Group are really they are a multi-award winning developer, often have won the best developer in the West Midlands. What they're doing here, their vision is obviously to create something that's going to stand the test of time. In the middle, as I mentioned, there's a courtyard. We've also got basement parking available to each of these units, which is amazing. And essentially, the interior units in the development all have terraces, which is a nice added feature. You'll see these are actually completed photos of a development done with Elevate Property Group, just showing you the quality and the level of luxury that we will be delivering at 30 St. Paul's. We'll follow the same design spec for these apartments. So we are focusing on that young professional. As I said, it's the last green space in Birmingham city centre that you can essentially enjoy. The development itself overlooks St. Paul's Church, which is on St. Paul's Square. And I mean, just out of reference, our offices are on the corner on the left here, and the 30 St. Paul's is at the top of the square looking downwards facing south. So just going into the next slide, this gives you a good look and feel for the square itself. If you're looking at this middle picture at the bottom, 30 St. Paul's is where my cursor is, overlooking the church. So really great area, and as I said, this address is very premium. We do have a plethora of offerings in Birmingham. So if that price point is a bit out the budget and you want to look at other areas with key growth and access to key connectivity and whatnot, we do have that. Our latest launch being Paper Yard in Birmingham. So jumping into our offering in Derby, and it's a very exciting opportunity. Essentially, I have sold property in Derby for quite some time, and I'm yet to have a displeased client in Derby. The projections of the rentals and capital appreciation have always outperformed what we projected. This project is named Loom House. It's the phase 3 of a bigger project. Just to understand, phase 1 is in the building on the far right there. Phase 2 is in front of us, and phase 3 is Loom House here on the left. Starting prices from £148,000. That's a studio apartment. 1-bedroom apartments from £190,000, and 2-bed apartments from £249,000. A 20% deposit is required, and completion is due in Q1 next year. However, we're about 4 months ahead of the build progress, so we anticipate completing maybe around September, October this year. But if you do still want to complete in Q1 next year, you will be able to still complete in Q1 next year and utilize that timeline for your cash flow. We are projecting higher rental yields in Loom House between 6 and 7%, and essentially the location of this development itself is the most central that we've ever had on our books. Essentially, there's the development there, and this image is the city center. You've got the train station just to the right here. That is a 3-minute walk to Loom House. Very easy commute. And then 2 minutes from Loom House, you've got the Derby Shopping Centre, which is a brand new shopping centre that was recently completed, that has all the amenities, obviously retail, dining, bars and whatnot, gyms. So you've got that on the doorstep. Very, very strategically located position for the development. These are CGIs, but because phase 1 is completed, these are the actual images from phase 1. We obviously, as a company, will help and assist providing a furniture pack and decking out the apartment for your tenants. But essentially, we are just illustrating the quality that has already been delivered and also well received in the market. So we're super proud of the quality here. So that's a good reference. I think for me, we want to jump on to, if you did join us today, thank you so very much. We really do appreciate it. And obviously, hopefully it unpacked a lot of insight between these two markets. Both of these developments I've gone through are built by the Elevate Property Group. As I said, a multi-award-winning developer. We're very proud to be working with them exclusively, over 30 years experience in the market. But essentially, if you did attend today's webinar, thank you so much. If you are ready to invest, it's a great time to make use of this. If you attended today, we'll obviously the special offering is we'll pay £1,000 towards your legal fees and £2,000 towards a furniture pack if you attended today's webinar. So if you'd like to book a meeting with us, you're more than welcome to. You just need to, obviously, I think a window will pop up now. Just click on the option that's more relevant to you, whether you're ready to invest now and to start looking at specific units for you. If you want to speak to one of our mortgage brokers to understand what lending might be available to you, or if you just want to learn more about the property UK or the UK property market, I'll be happily assist you with that. Or if you're just exploring for now, we can send you some further information for yourselves. So if you can just click on one of those and we can assist you when need be. Just going into the next slide. So that is booking a meeting. But if you do have any Q&As, I think because of time right now, we're coming on the hour. We will probably leave that for you to book a meeting and we can go through those together and essentially help you in this journey along the way. So thank you so much for attending today. Just one more thanks to Raj and Travis for assisting, to coming on, sharing your knowledge. Thank you, Brian and Pam Golding, for hosting us. It's great to be speaking to your clients, and I look forward to speaking to as many of you as possible after this